For people who want to know what is the Keith Andrew Network, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so prove them and still amount to something.
Hey everybody, it's Shelly Williams. I am so excited. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrews and it was amazing. I learned some things about him. He learned some things about me, and I also got to meet Sebastian. You keep watching. You make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell right there and just be a part of this whole experience.
Hi everyone, Sebastian MacLean here. I just got interviewed by Keith Andrews and it was a real honor to be part of his show. And I hope you tune in and get a chance to meet Shelly Williams as well with us. We had a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
All right, so the first question for our audience, it's absolutely amazing, Shelly, that you are a three-time Billboard award-winning television producer, and who inspired you to start that?
Who inspired me? I would have to say I was just in the right place at the right time. My sister was a part of the TV show Urban Expressions, and I would just go to visit with her, just really just being an onlooker. Really wasn't interested in the show at all. But one day it was alive. It was the first and only live show in Philadelphia for hip hop and R&B music videos. And so as a live show, you have to have staff, and the staff didn't come in because I think it was a storm. So some people weren't able to get in. So in a storm, I was the only one there with my sister. So they kept asking me, could I help? I turned them down 3 times. But by the 3rd time, I was like, I guess it makes sense. God would want me to help. So I helped. And from that day forward, I kept going.
No, absolutely. There's a whole list of great things that pop out at me. But let's go here from our second guest, Sebastian. You know, you mentioned you are an actor. Who inspired you to become a professional actor?
Well, that's a multi-layered answer, I guess. I didn't really recognize it as acting right away. I mean, my dad took me to see Superman when I was 2 years old. And at the time, I just interpreted that as I want to be Superman. So, but my father was quite an inspiration for me to kind of get in shape when I was a kid. That brought me into the world of bodybuilding. But what I understood as I got older about those two things was that, of course, there's no becoming, the fictional character you see on the screen, but you can build characters and you can embody them and you can tell stories that get people excited, just like I was when I was a little kid watching that film. So that began a process of kind of creating that journey. And I started that in the world of bodybuilding when I was a teenager into my 20s. And while I was doing that, I was looking for stories that a character type would fit. And then I began writing because I realized it wasn't just about the external part of, a character that was in shape or that had muscles. Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone were characters I watched a lot. But I also started realizing as I became a father and other things that there were elements of internal strength that was part of what inspired me when I was a child. When I saw that character, was goodness and, the struggle to do the right thing, or, sometimes the failure to do the right thing. And so you started to see how, building characters worked. And that started me on my path, I guess. And that's sort of how it kind of gradually unfolded.
The first question I want to ask you is, it is realistic to have a body like that, but at the same time, it isn't. For an example, I love Dragon Ball. I always think of Goku and Vegeta as my teachers, my mentors, because I learned so much from watching them. But you're not going to get mad and go, but big muscles pumping out of places. It would be really funny, but it's not realistic. But you mentioned bodybuilding. You look at Hulk Hogan. Now, I'm not encouraging people to I encourage people to say their prayers, take their vitamins, drink their milk, but I do not encourage you to stick yourself with steroids. So for me, I always want to get big. I want to be big like The Rock and John Cena. My brother always says I have a fat neck, so hopefully, get rid of that. But I do want to, it is realistic to be someone like John Cena and The Rock, pump iron, do all of that. That is the realistic part. But at the same time, you don't want to take any shortcuts. And, Hulk Hogan, yes, he is a household name, but that steroids can really come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, well, one of the things
that we can't hear you.
See, my mic is on. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Okay, all right. Yeah, one of the things that I recognized was that the more involved in bodybuilding I got, the bigger a lot of these guys were getting, and steroids was becoming a bigger and bigger part of the sport as well. Into the, it's always been an issue in the sport, of course, but in the last, I would say, 25 years, there's been an even greater explosion of size and drugs in the sport. But I also realized that wasn't very marketable for film and television. And so that was part of what defined my exit point with bodybuilding. I didn't want to move away from being able to portray characters that were relatable. And even if they're in shape, they had to look like they could function in a way that was more than just about the muscle. So I saw that the value of the muscle wasn't just being bigger and bigger in size. It was finding a way to make that relatable, and so that motivated me to stay away from a lot of that sort of drug abuse culture that would blow you up to 300 pounds and so on. Because apart from maybe the odd freakish role that might come up, you're not going to find much of a market for that in telling stories. So that was my off ramp, I guess. And then I began to really focus more on writing, trying to coordinate with producers and look at ways that characters that I could play, that I could inject something real into those and not just be about the muscle itself. So.
No, absolutely. I was thinking of something funny. There was this in a video game, I think it's 2007, 2008. I was playing SmackDown, and JBL has the line, "He's built like Tarzan, but he wrestles like Jane."
That's it. Yeah, you need balance. You got to have a little bit of everything.
No, absolutely. Next question's for both of you. Both of you are producers, so I want to put you in the hot seat. So if you were to produce the Keith Andrew Network, I'd like to know how you would produce it. And Shelly, I'm going to start off with you.
And say that if I were to produce who?
Oh, my show. What
Okay,
would he keep? What would he keep? What would you change?
All right, so maybe I would add some music, maybe add trivia, and maybe a co-host. Female co-host.
It's funny you should mention those two things. Yes, I did have music. If you watch my Christmas episodes, I do have Christmas music. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Pick mood music. It depends on the flow of it. Have some music. And someone says, yeah, you really need to get rid of that music because that shit, and it's uncensored, by the way, freedom of speech and self-expression. That shit, it's really just not disgusting, distracting. It's kind of like you have the guest on, you want to hear what the guest says, but you have music in the background. I mean, it's nice for the holidays, of course, but do you think it's a kind of like a conflict, or how do you feel?
Well, I don't know about Christmas music year round, but Christmas music has a way of making people happy. So
Right.
If you want happy people, maybe Christmas music makes them happy if that's what you want. And I guess it's all according to now, if you say hey, we have Christmas music break just to make you happy. That's why they have Christmas in July. That's why during the pandemic, when we were on lockdown, they started playing Christmas music on the radio so that you can lift up the spirits. So if you want to lift people's spirits, Christmas music is good. I don't know if that's what I would do, but if you want to lift people's spirits, then jingle bells, jingle all the way.
That's funny you should mention it, Sebastian. We pass the question to you, but one thing I will clarify is it isn't Christmas music. It's just mood music. And a lot of people are like, I try a little of everything. I don't knock it till I try it. And I'm like, okay, maybe if I put, like mood music to it, I don't want it to be distracting, but I also don't want people to say, what the hell am I watching now? And I want people to take this seriously. Now, Sebastian, same exact question I want to ask you. If you were my producer, what would you change? So what would you add? How would you produce it and make it better?
Well, I think you're doing a great job. First off, it's been really good interacting with you and Shelly here. So, I mean, just for starters, and also because you're very flexible with being understanding about trying to get guests getting familiar with uploading images and things like that's fantastic. Yeah, because I know that takes some patience. I'd probably split the difference on the music, just as a suggestion is, when you're doing intros and extras, just as the show is opening, it sort of sets a tone, and you don't have to have the music kind of playing through the interviews or what have you. And then as you do the exits, you can kind of kick off or in between segments as well. It kind of helps to bridge things and things like that. So I've seen that done a lot in shows. It's been and that kind of allows maybe a graphic intro and things like that. But a lot of that stuff's done in post as well. And because I haven't seen your post process, you may have a lot of that stuff in mind already. But yeah, those are just things that come to mind that I think of when I've seen some other shows out there.
No, absolutely. The one thing I do want to say, it's not about me, it's about you guys. The reason I don't do my speech during the introduction is I promise you guys a half hour. So I don't want to take any time away from you. So I do the speech in the intro. So there is an intro and there's an outro, of course. But once I start with the first question, it's like, okay, the show began. Then I can add all the other stuff later on. So I wanted to give you guys the complete 30 minutes, not say, okay, I'm going to take 2 minutes for myself and have diarrhea of the mouth. Because if you've been watching my show after 939 episodes, you know what it's about and you expect different and better things. But the one thing I do want to ask you, Shelly, is you are a social media manager. And I did message you before. What does that mean?
Well, I have clients that are corporations or businesses, and I put their social media strategy together and actually manage it for them. So whatever they're posting for today, I would put it together and create posts or get posts from taking pictures, and then I would post it for them. So I am their person. So if you're posting yourself, good, but some corporations have teams that do it. So I'm the team that posts for different clients.
Right. So for an example, in Sebastian, I don't know how many people we get on a post, but I'm going to use you for an example, if I may. Sure. If me and Sebastian wanted to get like 1,000 people to subscribe to our channels, how would you go about that in a post? Because I do post things all a lot, but I don't see the value in the numbers, if that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say that, hey, if I post this, we'll get 1,000. Of course, it's going to always be your goal to get likes. But the more creative you are, the more maybe likes you'll get if you want likes or followers. But it depends on your creativity. But you're not, unless I have never, and I mean, I'm a great social media strategist, but I don't believe I've ever gotten 1,000 all at one time. If I do, it would have to be a celebrity. I've gotten it for celebrities. Like if I post a celebrity, I can get 1,000. Then it's like, oh man, here's a celebrity. But more than likely, if I'm posting and saying, hey, how about I challenge you to like and share, like and share. So you may put that in the post to get people to give them their call to action. Hey, like my post right now, share it right now. My goal today is to reach 1,000 people. Help me get there. Help me. So people like to help. If you use those buzzwords, help me get there. Maybe they'll do the likes. Maybe they'll do the shares, and it'll just get them going. Yes, it's a challenge for the day. And then maybe do another post. Maybe a couple hours later, we're almost there. Did you like my post? Did you share it? Anything like that. It's anything to get creative, to get people involved, to ask for help. But every post has to have some type of call to action to get people to, of course, react and act on your post.
No, absolutely. I'm unemployed at this time, but I would love to have you in my corner. You can just say, this is what you should do in your posts. Help me get, if you can be my mentor, and Sebastian, you for that matter too, I would have loved that. Because doing things yourself after a while, it kind of gets to the point of, it would be nice to have someone, not to have a voice in your head, but just say someone in your corner, if that makes any sense.
It definitely makes sense. We all need a mentor. We all need a coach. To say we can do any of this without a team or a team of people, we can't. None of us can. And if you do, you'll be sitting in the corner a little overwhelmed.
No, absolutely. I've been doing this for almost 9 years. Actually, just one thing I do want to plug real fast, then we pass it over to Sebastian. This June, if you guys want to add to your calendar, this June 10th, 8 p.m. Eastern, it's my 9-year anniversary. I would love to have you guys there. For that episode, it's pretty much like a Q&A. You ask me questions, you say what you like about the Keith Andrew Network. So it's more interactive. That's the one thing I do want to say. But Sebastian, the other thing I want to ask you about is you mentioned you are in your own entertainment company. I think it's like the Brownson Entertainment.
Oh yeah. Bronson Entertainment's the label that I run with, but really I work with a lot of different partners. I kind of write under that company, and then functioning as a creative producer or someone that's kind of helping build a network to get a film made, but then also because I'm the source material in terms of the writing side of things, it allows me to kind of handle both legs of that, because if someone's taking a chunk of their life to kind of dedicate to a project that you're developing, you also want to be in there in the mud with them a little bit too, and helping to kind of get the project pulled together. So I jump in on the producing side. I tend to get people who have stronger skills in the area of producing, or maybe they're a little higher up the ladder than I am in that department. But I do what I can as well to try and help with financing, help with the team building, things like that, so that we can see if we can move a project forward, move it along.
No, absolutely. For an idea, do you produce? Do you write? Would you be interested in producing something? Like, for an example, if someone said, hey, would you want to write an idea about me or produce something for me? How would they go about working with you?
Was that directed at me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a few different ways that I would go about that. I've been approached about doing rewrites on scripts that are existing. And so when that happens, it's just a matter of, it depends on the relationship in a lot of those cases. If it's something that I'm kind of approaching the individual about because I see something of merit in the script and I'd like to kind of cultivate it into something to option, then I'll talk about maybe working with that writer to bring it up to snuff in terms of where I feel it could be or should be. But it's sort of nurturing a seed, or maybe many seeds of ideas that are really solid there, and just getting it to work a little more tightly. On the other end of things, sometimes it's more collaborative. I've worked with people where you kind of jockey with another director over concepts or ideas that they would like to maybe see brought to film, and then they have to kind of embrace maybe my story style if they feel that that's a good fit. because I have a certain way of kind of building characters and relating to story structure. So yeah, finding a spot where we're both inspired to kind of cultivate a story out of that is another, possibility as well. So and I've had other producers working out of LA who've kind of asked me for material and then torn it apart, while also, giving me the compliment of saying they really feel it's a promising idea, but giving me their feedback, and that process helps me improve or make maybe a project that needs some adjusting to become more marketable. So that probably is a good portion of how I would approach a lot of those things. If you had an idea, for example, I usually encourage people to write their idea down on paper, and whether it's one page or the less you can put forward to somebody who's a producer or writer, the better, in a sense, up front. You want a really good, concise idea. So if at most, I would say maybe a page or even a synopsis would be about a paragraph. And if it's exciting though, then you'll be asked, well, I'd like to see more. If you say, well, I don't have anything more, but this is an idea, then the question is, what kind of money maybe is a person willing to pay a writer to write that idea? If you're lucky enough to be connected to somebody who just is really looking for ideas to write, maybe they'll pick your idea and maybe they'll turn it into a script. But the more you can do with the feedback that you're getting, the further along you get.
Absolutely. Now, I do have some ideas for both of you. And Shelly, the same question I want to ask you. I'm sure you are a vice president of your own company. So same exact question. When someone wants to pitch an idea to you, how would they go about it?
I think mine is more different. Mine is a nonprofit. So I at times partner with other organizations. So they say, hey, we want to do a back to school drive for the kids. So then we'll partner on that. Somebody might say, we want to do a summer program. And I say, okay, we'll combine our resources and bring that together. That is what I do is on the nonprofit side. As far as producing, people, I would prefer they come to me in writing, but because we don't want to say, hey, this was this idea, this is that idea. So writing is always good. But I'm not really an independent producer where I'm producing a lot of people's projects. It's really basically the projects that I'm working on. I'm not an independent producer producing others. Just pretty much the Urban Expressions or Single on a Saturday Night, which are my shows. But I'm more so in the nonprofit era, doing more of the community outreach and giving back to other people.
No, absolutely. Now it's the last 7 minutes. I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but I'll start off with you. Shelly, when I first approached you to be a guest in my talk show, what made you say yes? How do you feel now, and would you recommend to other people? And Sebastian, it's the same question afterwards.
I was honored, definitely honored for you to ask me. I was honored and excited. How do I feel now? I feel so excited. I got to meet you and Sebastian. Sebastian is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just grateful to learn from. So I'm glad. It's a great experience.
No, absolutely. How about you, Sebastian?
Yeah, well, for me, likewise, it's just been a pleasure to meet you and Shelly here today. And I think what kind of drew me in as well is just that, this is media is a people business. You get to find out who good people are to work with by building relationships and by taking the opportunity to get them familiar with your audience and for me to get familiar with yours. And so, if you really want to reach people, you've got to be open to the opportunities that come along where you get to speak to a new audience, make new friends, and build new relationships. So when I saw what you were doing, I thought it's fantastic that you're building a show. And I know you've been on for a while and you're still growing. So I was honored as well, but also wanted to be part of encouraging that too. Because I think, taking a step to kind of put yourself out there is, it's a bold move because there's a lot involved in the process. So I wanted to support that. And I was also, like I said before, honored to be able to be part of it as well. So.
No, absolutely. Now, like I said, as I always say, I have a couple questions for you guys off the air for a Q&A. But the one thing I want to say to our listeners, if you're watching on LinkedIn, make sure to like the LinkedIn fan page. If you're on Facebook, make sure to like, subscribe to the Facebook fan page. We have a fan page on LinkedIn, Facebook, and that's really about it until some other social media comes up. But this interview will be shared on Twitter, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Especially YouTube. Hit that bell icon. You'll be notified when brand new interviews are up and ready. But wrapping up our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege having both of you as the guests. Wrapping up, until we meet again, I'll say thank you and good night.